Thank you all for coming. How nice to see so many of you here. Welcome to the British Library. It's an absolute pleasure always to have friends and colleagues here, but this industry in particular, because among the great cultural institutions of the UK, in fact, perhaps alone among them, we feel we have a special responsibility for your industry because we are the custodians of everything that you do. As Ruth has just said, we are the National Library of the United Kingdom, and the tradition has been, since really the 18th century, certainly the 19th century, that every single published book, pamphlet, magazine, newspaper, and journal has by law to be collected here. When I came here 2 years ago, I tried to figure out how many items we have in total in the collection. Estimates range from 150 million to 200 million, which gives you a sense of how complex it is to understand exactly what it is we have, both under the vaults under our feet here. If you walked across the piazza, by the way, you were walking over not a square, a London square, but over a roof. You're walking over 4 stories of deep basements, which hold about half the national collection, and then the remainder, as Ruth has said, is up in Yorkshire. And within that, newspapers and the journey of newspapers play a vital and, I hope, increasingly visible role in what we do. Now, if I'm going to change slides, how do I do that? Is that the little yellow button? We have a mixed history, I think it's fair to say, in terms of collecting and preserving your industry. This is a snapshot. Actually, it looks quite clean and tidy. This, I'm afraid, is inside Colindale Newspaper Library. Now, I don't know, hands up anyone who's actually been to Colindale Newspaper Library. The demolition lorries moved in the other day. I certainly went there when I was a cub newspaper, a television researcher back in the 80s. And that, for about 80 years, most of the last century, was the home to the national newspaper collection. Some 60 million newspapers, 750 million pages, 3 centuries of content, an unbroken thread of material, and growing every day. And if you go to Boston Spa, as I do frequently, our Yorkshire base, that is where the National Collection grows every day. Some 1,200 titles added every week. There may be 9 or 10 major newspapers. I can tell you across the UK, as I'm sure everyone knows here, print is alive and well. In this industry in particular, the growth of free sheet publishing has caught us unawares. We are probably, we think, actually collecting more editorially distinct newspapers on a daily basis at the moment than ever in our history, and it's our job to try and protect that record. We're here not just, by the way, to collect the intellectual content of what gets published, but also the fabric of publication, so that future researchers, today's researchers, can understand the business trends, the production trends, the distribution trends that affect what gets created. And by the way, over and above that, it's always been the tradition here that we collect a representative sample of the international press as well. We're a very, very global international institution, open to everyone, and I mean everyone. Anyone over the age of 18 can get a reader pass and come here for research, for inspiration, and just stimulus and enjoyment. But there we are. We found ourselves about 10 years ago as custodians of this extraordinary collection, and to put it bluntly, the roof was leaking, there was asbestos, it was a not fit for purpose building. And over that decade, a little bit of public investment in the heritage of the newspaper industry has taken place. About 30 million of public funding, very, very importantly, to protect the heritage and the future collecting of newspapers, and indeed news in all its form. And it was a 7-year program, and the result is north and south in the UK. Here in the north, opened ceremoniously last month, is the National Newspaper Building, 20 metres by 24 metres, an extraordinary high-tech storage facility, awesome on the inside. It took us about a year to move the entire newspaper collection into safe storage, climate-controlled. I mean, there's historic newspapers as high and as far as the eye can see. Normally, the lights are off No human beings go in there. It's manned by robots. If you sit here in a reading room in London, order a newspaper, the robots whir into action. They will track down a mid-19th century newspaper, the exact copy for you. It'll slide off the shelf, it'll come on the lorry, and it'll come to your desk. An extraordinary operation. Only about once a year, I'm afraid, can we turn on the lights and let human beings in. But if any of you do want to come, send me an email. We do think it is one of the great secret tourist attractions of the North. And it is a thing of wonder. And of course, it grows every day. It fills every day. And the debates you have over the print digital shift, of course, affect our business model as well. We have calculations about how many years of growth there is, by the way, in this facility, and we've had to revise those down a little bit because, as I say, there's more print being created. But again, we track these trends, and I'm sorry I can't join you for the whole morning because I'm dying to hear where you all think this journey is headed. So that represents the paper fabric. Long may it continue in some form, and I can tell you it will continue to be of permanent interest to current and future scholars and researchers, and you'll see it here when I come to the newsroom here. But it's also vital that where possible, and God knows it is a Sisyphean endeavour, we turn this material into digital format. And once you turn content, of course, into digital format, it can be OCR'd, as they say, optical character recognition. You can begin to search the historic record. We would go bust if we tried to fund this project ourselves, but we do, as some of you may know, have a partnership with what was Bright Solid, the family history division of DC Thompson, a major project running in tandem with the newspaper program, which has currently delivered 10 million out of copyright historic 19th century, early 20th century newspaper pages online for research. Free access, of course, in the reading rooms here, with a target by the end of the project of some 40 million, and actually we hope that will continue. Remember, of course, there are 750 million pages in the entire collection, so even that mighty project will still leave quite a lot of content, either in paper form only or microfilm. That's one form of access, extremely important. Equally, I think, important while we're sat here in London is what we've been able to do is bring the heritage of, and indeed future of news and newspapers from its little outpost in Colindale bang into the heart of the national research offer here at St Pancras. Last year we had Sajid Javid in one of his first public engagements formally opening a historic moment, a brand new reading room here at St Pancras, which we have called the Newsroom, not the newspaper room, because we decisively have positioned this as a facility for you, me, any researcher to research not just newspapers, but news in all its forms. So clearly microfilmed print news is part of that, but so is the web, and so is a selection of video news. And the web is particularly important there because that historic tradition of copyright deposit, legal deposit that I talked about historically 2 years ago went digital. And as of 2013, our obligation is to collect not just every printed journal and page, but also everything published on the web in the UK and every ebook and every e-journal. And for the whole UK domain, we do a kind of once or twice yearly crawl. But for the news industry, we capture 300 of the main sites on a daily basis because already that is a vital part of our archival and historic role to track the daily currency of news and vitally to preserve it so that in 50, 100 years' time, whatever you can or can't find on Google or its successor by that point, you will know that you can come here and track down exactly what editors, journalists, advertisers decided to publish on a particular day. And that has triggered for us our own version of a digital shift, because we have begun to create a reading room which is truly multimedia, where we're already seeing researchers compare and contrast how news is treated across different media, often research very, very recent history to try and get a snapshot or an understanding of the trends. And it's not just small data, it's big data too that we're now beginning to look to. It was announced by the Chancellor just before Christmas that all being well, the brand new Alan Turing Institute for Big Data Research and Big Data Science will be coming to be based at the British Library. And increasingly, we are looking forward to finding ways to examine the big trends in digital content and to work with our industry partners to do that. So news is here, newspapers are here, they're at the heart of the library and the heart of the National Collection, so it's an especial pleasure to welcome you to the library, and I hope that you have fantastic and interesting deliberations today. Enjoy the day. Thank you very much.